Back, you're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salalo Makwidiri. The time is what, 3 minutes just shy of 9 a.m. on the dot. And the name of the show is News and Views. And yeah, really excited that you're able to stay with us, engage with us, and be part of the conversation. We're going to be changing gears slightly now. This is our hashtag sports focus feature where we speak to elite Muslim athletes and we talk about their journeys, how they got into the sports discipline that they are involved in, how they tap into their spirituality to be the best of the best, and Ramadan and fasting and how they maneuver all of that while in a high intensity, high demanding world of sports. And today, when we speak about discipline, we speak about perseverance and just spiritual strengths. These are some of the pillars of martial arts, and I don't think there's anyone that embodies them better than our guest today. He's a world-renowned Kung Fu master, an 8-time gold medalist, a Legends of Kung Fu champion, and a Grand Style Tai Chi champion. But beyond the physical, his journey is deeply connected to faith, spirituality, and discipline. As we embrace the blessed month of Ramadan, we explore the intersection between fasting, martial arts, and spirituality with none other than Shifu, Mohammed Junaid Chafeker. How does one balance the physical demands of high performance Kung Fu with the spiritual commitment of fasting? And what role does Islam play in his martial arts journey? And most importantly, what lessons can we take from the philosophy of Kung Fu into our daily lives? And we're going to be finding out with Shifu Mohammed Junaid, who's joining us via our virtual platform live from Beijing. Shifu, assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure chatting to you, and welcome to Salam Media.
Walaikum salam. It's 3 p.m. in Beijing, China. We are about 3 hours, 15 minutes away from iftar. Always an honor to be with you, and many thanks to Salam Media for providing this important platform. This is currently day 26 of my travels across China, and 21 days that I've been experiencing Ramadan in China, covering 7 cities across this massive country. It's been an awe-inspiring, sublime experience beyond words. I can literally write a book on this journey thus far. So wonderful to be with you and everyone on the Salam Media platform.
No, the pleasure's all ours. And I think you starting where I would have liked us to start, just experiencing Ramadan in China. What are some of the key takeouts? Because, we've read about Islam in China and some of the difficulties that, the Uyghur Muslims face in that part of the world and the government's response to Islam and Ramadan. But you seem to be in awe. You've witnessed something quite different that I think would be really awesome to share with our audience.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the hammer on the nail. We started our journey on the 25th of February, traveling to Hong Kong for the International Wushu Championship. I had the SA Youth Kung Fu team that I coached. 5 of those athletes were with me. We competed at the championship. Day 3 of the championship coincided with Ramadan. Myself and a few of the athletes, we observed fast while we were competing. And Alhamdulillah, amazing results. The team in total, including myself, we scooped up 14 gold medals, 3 silver and 1 bronze medal. So Alhamdulillah, that was a fantastic achievement. The team then stayed behind with me for about 5 days, where we traveled to mainland China. They experienced Jumu'ah at the oldest masjid in China. And a lot of this trip kind of like parallels and synchronizes with my book that we launched in December. I remember speaking to you about it, Kung Fu Part 2. So they were able to perform Jumu'ah at the oldest masjid in China, Hua Yisheng. This masjid was built in the early 6th century. And then for a couple of nights in Ramadan in the first week, they were able to go with me back to this masjid before iftar and experience iftar and breaking of fast with Chinese Muslims, and that was Khoi, Uyghur, Tajik, Uzbek, Kazakh. So there were literally hundreds of Muslims present at the masjid for iftar at night, and there were over 2,000 congregants for the Jumu'ah Salah. So that was an amazing experience. The team then came back on the 6th of March to South Africa, and my wife and I, we continued our travels across China from Guangzhou in the south. We went to the capital city in Beijing, where I also experienced Jumu'ah at the ancient Nuiji Mosque that was built in the early Song dynasty period in the 8th century. Literally met hundreds of Chinese Muslims who had come for the Jumu'ah Salah. And then from there, we traveled for 6 days to Xinjiang province. And we were in Kashgar. We literally interacted with thousands and thousands of Uyghur Muslims. I was fortunate enough to actually go to the Eidgah Mosque, which is the largest masjid in all of China. It accommodates for about 22,000 musallis. It's the third largest masjid in Central Asia. That is amazing. And I must say, having interacted with the Uyghur Muslims, having been there, not for the first time, I've been there before, about 15 years ago, but just going there to present day, looking at the current situation and condition, Alhamdulillah, the Uyghur Muslims are doing very well. They are observing fast. They are allowed to go to the masajid for prayers. They can break their fast. They are experiencing Ramadan. And a lot of this I've put in as far as videos, reels, and images across my social media platforms are concerned for people to see. And interacting with the Uyghur Muslims was very special because they are friendly, humble, kind people, and they are very, very proud of the Uyghur Islamic identity. So that was amazing. And then from Xinjiang province, we traveled to Inner Mongolia, the capital city, Hohhot. I managed to perform Jumu'ah Salah there at the ancient Grand Mosque that was built about 580 years ago. And there's a thriving Chinese Muslim community comprising of Mongol Muslims who accepted Islam, Khoi, Uyghur, Tajik. In the vicinity of that capital city alone, there are over 224,000 Muslims. And I think in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, according to current stats, about 11.5% of Mongolian citizens have reverted to Islam. And I think this should not come as a surprise to us because Genghis Khan, the leader of the Mongol Empire, his second eldest grandson, Birkai Khan, accepted Islam after the death of his grandfather. And he became a devoted religious practicing Muslim who even went to study the basic tenets of Islam in Bukhara and Samarkand. And when Birkai Khan accepted Islam, he was the leader of the most powerful Mongol golden horde in the Mongol Empire. More than 250,000 soldiers in the golden horde accepted Islam along with him. So this history is magnificent. And in seeing the thriving Muslim community, we had iftar there for a couple of nights. Many, many Chinese Muslim restaurants surrounding every masjid in all these major cities. So there's no problems with halal food. And from there, we then traveled to the ancient city of Xi'an, which was the previous capital based on the timeline of history, 4th and 5th century. And just, behold, we looked at the site of the Grand Mosque of Xi'an that was also built in the mid-650s, commissioned by the Tang Emperor, which is amazing. And you're literally seeing hundreds and thousands of musallis come in and out of these masajid. And how I also see the Chinese Khoi Muslims during Ramadan even still practicing Kung Fu, still practicing Tai Chi and Qigong. And now coming back to Beijing for the last stretch, my observations and experiences down on the ground is that across China, including Xinjiang province, Islam is alive and well. It is thriving. And Muslims are allowed to practice Islam, whether it is for Ramadan, whether it is going for Jumu'ah or the 5 daily prayers. And it's testament to the fact that Islam arrived here, Alhamdulillah, in the early 6th century. So no problems. Alhamdulillah, no problems.
Wow, Alhamdulillah. As you're speaking, it's like you're painting a picture, when you speak about all of the mosques that you've gone to, experiencing Juma prayers in all of these old and historic mosques. I can almost feel it and see it with my imagination. And Alhamdulillah that, you're giving us firsthand experiences of Islam in China and how it is being treated. But I want to come back now to your sports. You mentioned that
Yes.
you have people competing. There's still competitions. You were with the team that was competing, the SA Youth, and I'm thinking to myself, as someone that has competed at the highest level of this sport, Ramadan, and being at the top shape and top level of your discipline. How do you go about it? Do you find strength somewhere? Do you tap into something a bit more special, when you're competing at the highest level during this auspicious month?
It's a very good question, actually. Over the years, I must admit, initially, when you are training and observing fast, it is not easy. It's something that the body has to acclimatize to. So I'm not going to paint a fairy tale picture and say that it is easy, because it
Mm,
is not. But Alhamdulillah, I've been in the fortunate position where I've represented South Africa at 6 world championships. Out of those 6 world championships, three coincided with the auspicious month of Ramadan over this 30-year period that I've been a professional. And what I've learned was through training in Ramadan in South Africa and then heading to the World Championship. What I found was I was essentially doing 10, 12 hours of training in Ramadan in South Africa to prepare for the World Championship. And what I found was initially when I started training, my body needed to adjust and acclimatize physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. But we have no real indication as to the power of the auspicious month of Ramadan. It's not a time for us just to be sleeping and then to wake up for prayers and then break our fast and perform Taraweeh Salah and then sleep. It's our
mm,
time that we can actually be most active. Because as I was training in Ramadan for these three world championships, I gradually found that I had experienced this tremendous sense of calm and focus, clear mind, tranquility. And that
mm,
helped me to put a lot of things into perspective as I was doing 10, 12 hours prep here. And then when I landed either in Mexico or the United States or China, wherever the world championship was, it just so happened that I arrived in the last 10 days of Ramadan at the World Championship. And I then made a personal, conscientious choice to observe fast. It was my
mm,
choice. And what I found was that tranquility and that clear mind and that peace that I had encountered during my training prep in South Africa, I was automatically carrying that through with me to the World Championship. And once I
mm,
stepped onto the Leitai and into that competition arena, it was literally the most peaceful and tranquil experience. My mind was clear. Everything was completely sequential for me. I knew exactly what to do. And I think the spiritual strength that Ramadan had given me had just added an extra edge because in those three world championships, I'd managed to win gold on three
mm,
consecutive periods for South Africa. So I can honestly testify to the fact that Ramadan is an extremely powerful month. It's not a month for sleeping. Really, it isn't. We can catch up with sleep some other time. But if we believe that we should be inactive and we must sleep every day for long hours just to cover the day so that we can get to iftar, then I think we are truly missing the point. I'm not saying you should train for 10, 12 hours a day, but spend at least 10, 15 minutes every day in Ramadan on a treadmill, doing a little bit of cardio. If you've got a punching bag, spend a bit of time, on the bag, etc. You will actually find that it sharpens your skills from a physical perspective. So the power of Ramadan, subhanallah, Allah has truly blessed us. He has.
I mean, and if there's one question that I've always been asking myself is, particularly when it comes to you and just looking at your journey. You mentioned that we did have a conversation once, and it was about your book. It was just the connection between kung fu and Islam, and maybe you can just unpack it for us a bit. Islam emphasizes discipline, patience, and self-control. Do you see a strong connection between the teachings of Islam and the philosophy of kung fu?
100%. Brilliant question. Beyond a shadow of doubt, it is symmetrical. As we placed our two fingers together, while I was in Xi'an a couple of days ago, the ancient city of Chang'an, I managed to meet probably the Chinese Muslim world, and I think the Kung Fu world in general, is indebted to this man and his family. He's a Chinese Hui Muslim, Grandmaster Shifu Ma Yu. His Arabic name is Muhammad Ali. He's currently 67 years old, and he's been training every day in Ramadan. He became an undefeated Asian champion in the late 70s, early 80s. He's a highly decorated martial artist, and he is probably an authority on the Chinese Muslim styles of Kung Fu. I spent a bit of time with him last week. He also met the SA youth team 2 weeks ago before they flew back to South Africa. And he's been active throughout the month of Ramadan. And his father essentially was the central coach and mentor to renowned movie star and martial arts champion Jet Li. And he was corroborating all the facts that I had shared in my new book, Kung Fu Part 2, where he confirms that the Chinese Muslims about 800 years ago, they developed their own styles of Kung Fu. Tan Tui, Cha Chuan, Tong Bei, Ba Ji Chuan, Xing Yi Chuan. And the central point of training for every community was the mosque. There was a courtyard that was always devoted and dedicated to the Kung Fu training. And most times, the Imam of the mosque in China was also a master of the Kung Fu. So his students would gather at the mosque in the main courtyard 2 hours before Fajr and commence with their Kung Fu training. So his father literally replicated that same age-old system of 800 years ago up until 2015, before his father died, Grandmaster Ma Xianda. And he comes from a renowned Chinese Hui Muslim family. 7 generations they go back as masters of the Kung Fu. So that proves for me, when the Chinese Muslims developed their own styles, it kind of showed the synchronicity between Islam, Kung Fu, and martial arts. And this practice is still being kept alive today, because over the last 25 days, I've seen so many Chinese Hui Muslims and Uyghur Muslims still up until the present day practicing Kung Fu throughout the month of Ramadan that I've seen now every day across my travels.
Wow, Shifu, Alhamdulillah. I wish we could continue with this conversation, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. Jazakallah again for joining us, or should I say, Shi, Zai Zhen.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly so much. That was Shifu Mohammed Junaid coming to us live from Beijing. He's a gold medalist, legends of, and I think, South African legend of Kung Fu Championship. And yeah, man, he's giving us, his journey in China currently, where he's in Beijing, and painting, I think, a beautiful picture of how Islam is flourishing in that part of the world. And just his journey with the sport, with the discipline, how it almost integrates with Islam so beautifully, and also fasting during this month of Ramadan, still maintaining peak fitness, peak performance, but still observing this very, very beautiful and auspicious month. So I think it was an awesome conversation to have, and one that was very, very eye-opening. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, news and views continues. Hiya.